deliberately outstaying my welcome on the beach. Today, I, 25 mil, was looking for a spot to chill out on the beach and read my book. The heat was real intense, so it wasn't possible to be sat in full sun, and shade was very hard to come by. Eventually, I came across 3, maybe 4 trees evenly spaced out, 2 of which had deck chairs placed under. Now immediately I knew these chairs had been placed there by the nearby resort, and so I made the decision not to sit in them, but seeing as they were not on private land but on the public beach, I laid my towel down and sat beside them. An hour or so passed. I had been swimming, reading, and minding my own business when I knocked my bag over into the sand. At this point, I put my bag up on one of the chairs, seeing as in all this time I had remained undisturbed. Sure enough, minutes later, an old man, probably late 60s, comes over grumbling to himself and stares at me angrily, pointing to the deck chair. I removed my belongings and found myself apologizing, begrudgingly, given the manner in which I'd been consulted. The man continues to grumble and groan indistinctly as he moves the chair around, and I try to read my book. Just then his wife, I assume, joins him, and they both begin berating me in thick German Austrian accents as to how I had the whole beach to choose from, and decide to sit here. Now, if I'd been asked respectfully, I would have just moved and gone about my day, but given the manner in which I was spoken to, I decided I'd stand my ground. Calmly, I told them they could also choose to sit anywhere along the beach, at which they grew even more animated. I told them I was doing no harm, sat on a public beach, at which point the man started to shout at me, "You're crazy! You're crazy! You put your luggage on my chair!" I calmly said I'd been here for an hour, and it hadn't been an issue, at which point they snapped back that they'd been here longer. I still don't understand the logic in this. I simply put it to them that I didn't have an issue with the situation, and went back to reading, and they both set down their belongings and stormed off into the sea, presumably waiting for me to leave. At this point I'd realized I was all but ready to go off in search of lunch anyway, until this delightful couple gave me the perfect reason to stay just a little longer. For half an hour, I sat with my book, occasionally looking over to them as they swam around, glancing back at me to see if I'd gone. Eventually the man returned. I stayed, sat with my head in my book as he moved his chair around me, deliberately hanging it over my head for a length of time. I didn't look up to see what he was trying to gain from this. I did, however, note him deliberately walking across my towel as I was sat on it, and doing his absolute best to kick as much sand my way as possible. I said that was real kind of him, and that I thought with age you learn manners. I added that it was embarrassing for a man of his age to behave in such a way. As a result, I sat out for the best part of another half hour. At which point, his wife now looked like a dried prune, having tripled her wrinkles trying to avoid me by staying in the sea. I decided I'd finally move on to get some much-needed food, though not before one final flourish. I slowly gathered my things, making sure I wasn't about to leave anything behind, and with one great swoop, maybe a couple of extras for good measure, flicked all of the sand off of my towel straight over this great blubbering buffoon. He instantly grew red with rage. I pointed out to him that it was just the same sand he'd kicked at me. Sitting upright in his chair, he hastily grabbed a handful of sand and threw it toward me, though he hadn't accounted for the fact that I'd taken time to note the direction of the wind. Quite beautifully, it all blew back in his face. I told him to have a nice day before strolling off down the beach and waving to his wife, still shriveling in the water, as I hear shouts of, "Idiot! Idiot!" in the distance. Honestly made my day.